what I want to remember. This is what I want to distill from the thing, from the process I just went through. So rivers, and then these ones I'll do a new poster for you. I've never gotten to use these sticky Post-its before. I've always wanted to my whole teaching career. I don't think I'm doing a great job at it, but I'm having fun. So thanks for going with me. I asked Debbie, I said, Debbie, she said, what could I get? Oh, Becky got them for Becky. She said, what can you get? What can I have for this thing? I said, I want those big Post-its. I want to try it. So, I don't know. Fun. How are we doing on time? We're going to run out. I can take it home? Really? It's my payment? Sweet. Thank you.
It's 10:40.
I'll come back anytime. I got 15 minutes. You guys are going to be late to your next appointment. Here we go. Let's talk about two other shapes in writing.
Yeah, take as much time as you want. Really.
It's not,
your
unless
time.
there's anybody here that is not, there's not a time constraint.
No, you can leave whenever you want. Lock the door. Okay.
Well, let's see, how many donut holes do we have left?
There's plenty.
All right. Let's talk about two more shapes I think are helpful. And these are especially helpful in expository writing and also argumentative or persuasive writing. All right? And these are really, again, writing is thinking. And so you may have seen these in a philosophy class. But these are ways to think about, these are just ways of thinking. One is induction and the other is deduction. So let's start with induction. Induction is where you begin with something relatively small, something relatively specific, and you begin to work out towards some universal or general claim. All right? And so you might begin by saying, this morning I drove down Chester and I saw a man come around the corner with a bicycle surrounded with garbage bags and carrying a bicycle stroller connected with a 2x4. And I was kind of struck by the ingenuity of this apparatus that he had built to carry all his worldly possessions with him down Chester. And I began to think about social justice. And I began to think about my 3-bedroom, 2-bath house where the heat was on all night and where I made breakfast in my bare feet this morning. Okay, so I started with something kind of tiny and particular, and now I'm moving towards something that's universal and huge and big and messy. And the goal here in moving from the specific to the general is just that. It's to say I live in a tiny little corner of the world. My understanding experience is about this big. But I'm not fully satisfied with that. So I want to ask some big questions. I want to engage some large issues. And I want to see if I can't come up with an idea that's larger than myself, that's larger than my immediate circumstances, something that's more generally or universally true. Okay, so in induction, we work towards something, again, that's specific to something that's general, something that's personal, to something that's universal. Again, are you seeing how this might be helpful with your students? Where you say, hey, okay, you want to write about this thing. You want to write about what we saw when we drove down Chester this morning coming to Valley Oaks, right? You want to talk about that man in the shopping cart and the baby stroller and all that stuff. All right, let's start by describing that. Just write that out. Tell me what you saw there. Use a lot of details, okay? Tell me exactly what you saw. The thing that held the baby stroller to the bike, that was a board, right? Okay, it looked like he wired it together. There were garbage bags on both sides of the bike. Looked like the front wheel, the baby stroller was okay. Tell me, describe it. When you saw that thing, what did you begin to think? What did you begin to think? How did this man get here? What happened here? Where did he build that thing? Where does he put that thing when he's asleep, right? Okay. All right, now let's just think about that, man. Let's compare and contrast for a moment. What was our morning like? Oh, we had Eggos, we had, supper, Okay. What are some questions that come out of that? You see where we're going? You see what we're doing? Sometimes you have a student that has a tiny little thing they want to write about, that they want to talk about, and your job as teacher is to guide them towards the big thing that is really what they want to talk about. And sometimes the opposite is true. And we call this deduction. And this is when your, ninth grader comes home and they've, cut off their hair and dye it purple, and they start wearing Doc Martens, and they say, "I want to be a social justice warrior." And you go, "Oh, okay, give me your phone back," and all that stuff. So, but they start with this big, huge, general idea. And you go, "Okay, you want to be a social justice warrior? That's a big, huge, general claim. Let's talk about that a little." So you say there's injustice. Why don't we begin by defining the term injustice? All right. Well, injustice isn't getting what you deserve. Well, is it not getting what you deserve, or is it not getting what everybody else has? Because make that decision carefully, because you're going to be voting on one side of the battle or the other for the rest of your life, right, based on that answer. Again, I have no opinions. None. Neither left, neither right. But anyway, you see what I'm getting at, right? Let's define that big term. Let's start to break that down. What are some examples of social justice or injustice you see in the world? Well, I think, the fact that there's like homeless people, like that seems unjust. That's wrong. Okay. Well, let's talk about, what are some of the possible causes for homelessness? How does that happen? All right. What is the actual work that one, if they really want to be a social justice warrior, where do you think that would, where would that work begin? Is it marching with signs? Or is it getting down to some of these root causes that you've talked about? Because you said, well, maybe there's addiction there, or maybe there's a lack of education there. Okay, so what is the work that's beneath that, right? And so you're starting with your students this big, massive, universal idea, and you're helping them break it into the component parts. You're going from the general to the specific, and you're helping them come up with something that's very concrete, right? One thing that they're going to do differently because they're compelled by the cause of social justice. All right? You with me? And again, as teachers, this is the part where you can't always have a game plan going in. So maybe you ask the student, "Hey, write me a rough draft. Let me see what you got." And then you begin to determine, all right, I think I got a specific idea that needs some big general rules, be guided towards some general universal claims, or I think I have a huge general messy claim that I've got to tear down to some specific parts. Okay? And I'm gonna take this blob and I'm gonna give this writing some shape. All right, so that's what I think of when I think of writing shapes. It's how you take the mess and begin to organize it into something that makes some sense. All right, I'm gonna speed up. 10 minutes. Giant closes. We are getting into this whole talk is deductive, right? I started with the big stuff, and I'm just getting more and more specific as I go. So we talked about types of writing, shapes of writing. We're going to narrow it down to the structure of writing and how we build writing. And I'm going to keep this pretty simple. Now again, not to do injustice to poems, because poems are not built, that says paragraphs. I saw that face. That's an A. That's an A, did. Sorry. I teach high school, they don't care about this. Paragraph. Paragraphs, in poems we call them stanzas, but we're the same thing. Paragraphs are the building blocks of writing. And as simple as it sounds, like there's just a lot of students that are rolling through middle school and coming up into high school that don't know how to write a paragraph. And again, I just think of paragraphs as kind of bricks, right? And you can build walls and you can build bridges and you can do lots of things, but you've kind of got to have a brick before you can get there, right? So a paragraph is the basic building block of writing. And a couple things I would just emphasize with paragraphs is that this is the big general principle. One paragraph should equal one idea. And this is where you may have to unlearn a few formulas. Because you've probably had an English teacher that told you all paragraphs have 5 sentences. And now you're in 11th grade and all paragraphs have 7 sentences. And this is an AP class and all paragraphs will have 9 sentences, right? And so it just gets bigger and messier and stuff like that. One paragraph equals one idea. Sometimes that's 9 sentences. Sometimes that's 2 words, right? A subject and a verb. You know that verse in the Bible, right? He wept. 2 words, 1 idea, 1 paragraph. Do I want to tack 8 more sentences onto that? No. Because that idea is the idea I want to stop my audience at and say, you see that? That's the idea. Now we're on to the next. Okay? 1 paragraph equals 1 idea. So, unlearn the formulas that you've been given. Has everybody got that? Yes?
Does that apply with like dialogue also?
Like when writing narratives? No. Great question. No one's ever asked this question before. It's on my second workshop. No one asked that. Every time you switch speakers, every time you have a new speaker, you start a new paragraph. And so you would say, oh no, you don't. Little grammar here. Where does the comma go? Oh, you're all scared just like that. Yeah, okay. Comma goes inside the quotation. Oh, no, you don't. She said. Question or new paragraph. So pretend I'm beginning here. Yes, I will. Comma, quotation. He said.
Unless you had like the same speaker changing ideas and you wanted to emphasize that, you would go ahead and do a new paragraph for the same speaker?
Same paragraph. So, oh no, you don't. She said, and then she went on, I'm tired of, all part of the same paragraph. So the paragraph switch in narrative indicates a change of speaker. I don't know why that dialogue sounded so angry. They could have been happier, like, can I help you, please? Sure you can. Sorry. Bitter. Too much coffee. All right, where were we? Oh, paragraphs. All right, so I said unlearn the formula, right? Did we all unlearn the formula? Good, I'm going to teach you a formula. If I were going to write a paragraph with a formula, and sometimes we do, sometimes we need a formula, I would use the C's paragraph. How did I spell it here? I spell it different every time. C's, good. C's paragraphs are again kind of an outline, a little mini outline within an essay or with expository writing, not necessarily narrative, probably not narrative, although maybe. These are all tools in the tool bag, so you just use them where you need them. A C's paragraph begins with a statement. It tells me what this paragraph is about, all right? And so recently, much has been made of the controversy of NFL players who are taking a knee during the national anthem. Boom. There's my subject. Now I want to begin to break that into finer points, so I come up with an example, right? Colin Kaepernick of the San Francisco 49ers was the first player that seemed to take on his practice 2 years ago and received much, so there's my first example. I might give a further explanation, right? Say, this issue got even greater attention and seemed to escalate in tensions when the president sent out a tweet saying that anyone who does this should be fired, right? So now I've given an example and I give a little further explanation. Sometimes there's exceptions to what we're talking about. Again, there's a little bit of nuance here. You say, there are many prominent players who did stand during the national anthem. A few of them might include Bakersfield's own Derek Carr, something like that, right? So you can put exceptions. Now, this is a menu of options. These are options. Not every paragraph will have all of these things, but this is the type of stuff that goes into the middle of a paragraph, all right? And so Sometimes, it's 3 examples, or sometimes it's one big explanation. Sometimes there's just not an exception to what you're talking about. But this is a good little checklist to run yourself through, right? So again, if you're talking about the founding of the nation, or the recent controversy, or the stages of meiosis and mitosis, or I don't know, something like that. And then we get to significance. Am I spelling that right? Never sure that word. So I just right again. So what? Right? This is the last thing you do in a paragraph. So you say, once I prove this, and you go, so the country finds itself again with an issue where people are very loudly proclaiming to be either for or against something, and it seems like they haven't taken the time to really understand one another. That's why the issue is important, right? That's the so what. And in that, did you hear that I'm setting myself up for the next thing I want to talk about? So the so what becomes the transition to whatever next idea I need to talk about. And you're probably already thinking, because you guys are always thinking, right? Not only does that work on a paragraph level, unit by unit, that's kind of what an essay does, right? That's an introductory paragraph. That's body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, body paragraph 3. No one ever, it's not in the 10 Commandments that all essays shall be 5 paragraphs long, so you might need 2 more body paragraphs. But then that's my conclusion, where I get to, what's this whole thing about? Why is it important? Why is it significant? So this works on a micro and a macro level, right? But it's a good structure to have in your head. It is a bit of a formula. And like all formulas, be careful with them. Don't become legalistic about them. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. They're like dynamite, You can build roads and bridges with them. You can also blow your hands off with them. So careful. Running out of room. Where are we at?
Sentences, write like a boxer.
Oh, good. Okay.